This video is about how the quality of your thoughts, your emotions, and other people's energy can affect your energy and your whole life, and 4 ways that you can start to detox your energy and move towards your best life. So I'd love for you to imagine 2 different wells from different films and TV shows. One is historical dramas, stuff like Little House on the Prairie or The Waltons. They centre around a family living in like a rural countryside area, and they have a well. And when they draw the water, it's full of clear, sparkling, pure water. When they drink it, it fills them with vitality and good health, well-being. And if you think of the flip side, horror films like The Ring, Japanese film. So there's a girl who was drowned in a well, Sadako, and she was pushed into this well. She was down in that well, suffering and in pain and lonely and sad and angry at the injustice, and that was the end of her life. So the water in this well, it's full of darkness, it's full of her pain, it's full of toxic energy from her suffering. Now, out of those 2 wells, the Little House on the Prairie or The Ring, which water would you rather drink? Would you drink from either of them, or would you only drink from one? So this leads on to a set of scientific experiments that were done in the 1990s by a man called Dr. Masaru Emoto. He was a Japanese scientist, and he conducted some experiments with water molecules. What happened is that glasses or jars of water were talked to and treated in different ways. So some people would speak to these glasses of water with kindness and nurturing and compassion. They would have kind words, kind emotions, kind energy when they were talking to this water, giving love, giving maybe prayers of hope and positivity, while the other sets of water were talked to in the opposite way. They were given harsh and cruel words. They were talked to as if they were nothing. They were talked down to. It was just so negative. And these water jars were also played music. Some of them were played classical music, maybe peaceful rhythms, and other ones were played heavy metal music with very heavy, hard vibrations. So voices and music, it's all vibration, and it all carries a different quality depending on the words we say and the intentions and the emotions behind the words. So these experiments with the Japanese sensei, they were put into freezers after they had been talked to, maybe for a couple of weeks every day, or even a month or so. They were frozen, and then the water molecules frozen were looked at and examined under microscopes. Now, the water that had been spoken to daily with words of kindness and compassion and love, these water structures, they turned into ice crystals that were beautiful and symmetrical shapes. They looked like things like snowflakes. On the other hand, the water that had been spoken to with feelings and words of negativity and hatred and anger and cruelty, they became ice crystals that were really chaotic and jagged. So they didn't have these beautiful structures that were harmonious. They were chaotic. So this just goes to show how the difference of our words and our emotions can really affect ourselves and other people. So if we think about ourselves, we are made of around 80% water. So if you think of that experiment from Emoto sensei, the water in the jars would change their molecules depending on the words and intentions and emotions that had been directed at them. So to start with the first step towards detoxing your own energy, what are the words and emotions that you feel to yourself? What are the words that you're telling yourself on a daily basis? Are you saying things like, you're rubbish, you're stupid, you're shit, you are blah, 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 all this crap stuff, right? Or are you saying words of compassion and kindness to yourself? Maybe two people will make a mistake and one person will say to themselves, you did so shit, that was crap, what are you fucking thinking of doing? And the other person will say, oh no, I made a mistake, but I understand, I'm only human, I'm going to learn from it and I'll do something better next time. But it's okay, I didn't intend to hurt anybody and nothing bad happened, this won't matter next week, let's just carry on, you've got this, you're okay. The way that we talk to ourselves makes such a massive difference. So just start to notice the words and the emotions and the intentions that you are sending inwards to the water molecules in your body, to your mind, to your entire energy. So if we think of the word emotion, that means energy in motion. So if you're sending yourself negativity, negative words every day, you're affecting yourself, you're affecting your water molecules and your energy and how you see and perceive yourself and the greater world. So this is the same with the type of music we listen to. So words and singing, it's all vibrations, right? So are you listening to music that makes you feel uplifted and like there's hope in the world? Or are you listening to things that just make you feel sad and melancholy? Sometimes it's nice to listen to some music that fits our mood if we're not in a great mood. But if you're listening to this kind of thing all the time, it's just going to be dragging your energy further back down into Sadako's well instead of into the Walton's well of clarity and being uplifted. Very often, the way that we talk to ourselves comes from the way that our caregivers talk to us or how they saw themselves. And this is what we learn when we were very young. When we were in our youngest years, we learn from those around us and we pick up everything and absorb it like a sponge. So if our caregivers had a negative mindset, for instance, they're going to pass this down to us. So it's really important to start becoming aware of your self-talk to yourself and notice, is this something that I could be kinder to myself about? Could I start to give myself compassion? Could I start to support myself more? If, maybe if our caregiver didn't give that to us, we can give that to ourselves now. We can start right now, today. So talking about caregivers goes back to the past. It could be a few years ago, it could be a decade ago, it could be early childhood. Are there things that we are hanging on to emotionally, energetically, that need to be brought into self-awareness and processed, resolved and released? And therefore, if we're hanging on to feelings and trauma and pain and sadness and anger from earlier on in our lives, it's going to be affecting us on a daily basis. It's going to affect the nervous system, it affects the mind, mental health and the body, and generally our entire energy. Maybe, for instance, you have a recurring dream and it's a horrible dream and it's scary and it links back to a trauma in earlier life. This is your subconscious trying to show you there's a part of yourself that needs to be healed. So to be able to give that nurturing to yourself, to go in and to do the work, to feel it and release it, it's going to change your quality of life so much more for the better. And maybe this affects your sleep. Maybe every night you're waking up from this recurring dream. Or maybe you meet new people and every time you start to get into a close connection, you have to run away because it scares you, because it might link all the way back to caregivers from early childhood. Caregivers. And if you had a caregiver, for instance, who was meant to be a safe space that you could depend on and you could trust, yet this person wasn't actually good for you because they hadn't done their own healing, so they were maybe even dangerous to you, then you might feel now that it's not safe to be in close connections. So until you heal that part of you, these patterns will keep repeating, and that cloud, that heavy cloud of the the dark energy of that well of Sadako will continue to be haunting you until you can find a way to resolve it and release it. The more that we do this, the more that we start to purify our energy, it becomes clearer, it becomes more good for our well-being and vitality. And remember, 80% of the body is water. And so going on from earlier life and caregivers, the third point is about the people who you spend your most time with. So there's a quote about, we are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So just think for a moment, who are the 5 people you hang out with the most? And how do they make you feel? Do they make you feel uplifted and like there's a lot of inspiration and like you can collaborate together and like anything is possible? And after you meet up with them, you just feel like your energy is almost fizzing with excitement, or like sparkling water? Or do you feel like heavy and sad and drained and maybe stressed? Maybe they do your nervous system no good and you actually could feel anxious after meeting them. This is why it's so important not just to think about the way that we're talking to ourselves, but the interactions with the people that we see most often. Maybe it's a case of 1 or 2 people might be really not very good for you, and you might find it really helps your quality of life just to step back a little bit, have a little bit more space from them, and then it can give you more time to set your nervous system back into what's for your highest good and make space for people who are really going to be on your wavelength and help lift you up. So I really noticed that has been the case for me. If you're like me and you're either highly sensitive, an empath, intuitive, or a combo, right? Being all 3 is a blessing. Sometimes it can be a curse if you don't know how to manage it properly. So when I was unhealed, it did used to be a curse for me in that I would pick up the energy of everyone around me and it would really sometimes negatively affect me. So if, for instance, someone was draining me, I would then have no energy to myself to do the things I wanted to do after hanging out with them, or someone else whose energy affected me so much that I started to think things that were out of character for who I am. It was like I was behaving in ways that were not me because I was absorbing their energy so much, again, like a sponge. So just to become aware of how other people's energy affects you and to be able to tweak that is so powerful to improve your life. And this leads me on to the 4th point, which is about clearing, raising and protecting your energy. Until I started going on my inwards healing journey, I was allowing everyone else's energy to affect me, whether negatively or positively. And obviously, we don't want other people's energy to affect us negatively because that's just not going to be any good for anything. What I started doing is daily meditation, energy, clearing, raising and protection. So what this would do is to clear my energy out of other people's. And you can think of it like if you're wringing out a sponge, maybe it's got washing up liquid on it and you just want to wipe the side or something. So you rinse out that, you squeeze it out and it squeezes out the old product to make it clear again so that it can be used for whatever purpose. And our energy is the same. And you can think of it again like water. It's like a water could be infused with other people's energy or our energy. And then by clearing it, we're removing what isn't a part of us, so that all that remains is your own energy. And to raise it, raising your energy means that you're lifting your vibration up so that the lower vibrations can no longer affect you in the ways that they might have once done. So for instance, for me in the past, I might have had a disagreement with someone close to me and started to feel their emotions and start to feel how they feel. If they were feeling irritable, I would as well. And then it would just escalate. But now, because I don't allow other people's energies to affect me like that, then I see it and I observe it, but I don't get swept up into it. I can just calmly remove myself from the situation, which is always for everyone's highest good. And protecting your energy is going to make sure that, if other people's energy tries to come in and affect you, then it's like there's an energetic shield and a barrier. So if you're interested in the last bit and you want to find more ways to clear, raise and protect your energy, check out this video up here where I go through some esoteric and practical ways that you can clear, raise and protect your energy today. I hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you next time.